Let's get off SU basketball for a moment to talk about Florida State basketball and talk about the opponent as we welcome in the voice of the Seminoles, Jeff Culhane. Jeff, thanks so much for coming on. How are you today?
Steve, Paulie, Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to everyone listening. Hope you guys are doing great, and the holidays have gone as well as possible. Great to be with you guys.
Yeah, same to you. Same to you. We got to start with this story involving Leonard Hamilton and the lawsuit and so on and so forth. And we'll get into this team and X's and O's here in a bit. But, this is the sign of the times, right? It's a new age in college athletics. What can you tell us about this whole situation and how it all came about?
Not much, boys. Sorry. I don't have a whole lot for you, to be quite honest with you. I found out when everybody else found out, quite honestly, when the news popped up. In fact, a friend of mine I hadn't talked to in quite some time just sent me, sort of one of those face emojis that had the wide eyes on it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Why are you sending me this emoji right now? And it's an unfortunate situation, obviously. I hope that everything gets worked out. The one thing for me with Leonard Hamilton is, man, he has really impacted during his Hall of Fame career so many people in a positive manner. I mean, players, coaches, how many people have been student managers for him during his 40 plus years as a head coach and have gone on to become head coaches themselves or assistant coaches. And so he cares about everybody that he comes in contact with. And I just hope this all gets remedied ASAP.
One more question on this before we move on. How much of a distraction has it been? Has it been a distraction with the players and coaches?
I think that's the main focus, right? Is that it does not carry over into anything happening currently with this current team. I know the coaching staff loves these guys. I mean, they have a good chemistry right now. They have not, they're still looking for their first ACC win at 0-2, but, they've done some things in non-conference play this year, guys, where his teams the last 2 years would have struggled, where they don't have any bad losses. Unfortunately, right now, they don't have any great wins. And so looking to get this new year, tipped off against Syracuse and get some momentum going in ACC play. So I think to answer your question, that's the big key. None of the guys that are a part of this situation are on the team currently right now. And so that I think is something that I would imagine that this coaching staff and Leonard Hamilton are looking at going, all right, let's deal with what we have to deal with on the outside. Let's keep the main thing on the inside and move forward with doing our best to become a better basketball team every single day.
I think I saw somewhere Florida State's going on 2 weeks, is it, without a basketball game? How did that happen, and how is he keeping the team together during that time?
Hey, how am I keeping my time together, guys? I've been bored these last 2 weeks. This will never happen again, I promise you. In the history, as long as I am blessed to do this job, here in Tallahassee with Florida State University, I can promise you, no football bowl game, unfortunately. Let's not go there, all right? Somehow, some way, the way it all lined up, the ACC gave Florida State their bye essentially this week in the midweek with the opening of, the main schedule of conference play. So I don't know how it happened. And we didn't have a non-conference game scheduled for right before New Year's, which is something usually teams do. So my wife doesn't laugh at my jokes anymore, guys. It's been almost 2 weeks. She's not, the dinners are hot dogs and mac and cheese. So she's ready for me to get back to work, as am I.
I was going to say, I bet you're ready to get back to work as well. So we've been talking around here about, here it is, the first week of January. Syracuse still does not have a victory over a Power 4 opponent. And it looks like Florida State's going through much the same thing, right? That they've played some Power 4 opponents. They've come up short in those games. They've done a nice job taking care of the others. They're 9-4 right now. I guess my question is, through 13 games, what have you learned about this Florida State team? And, are they any good?
Yeah, I think they're a team that is, guys, if you look at everybody around the league, there's so much newness on all these rosters with this new era in the portal. And I think that is what every coaching staff is trying to figure out right now is how do we get these teams to be the best versions of themselves? And every team's different, but all of them share, I think, a similarity in the fact that you've got to incorporate 3, 4, 5, in Florida State's instance, 10 new guys in their first year on this roster. And I think there's definitely an upgrade with this team, with the personnel that's been brought in. Obviously, when you return a guy like Jamir Watkins, who is the second leading scorer in the ACC right now at 19.5 points per game, that's a great building block to start with as a returner. But he's only in his second year within the program. So you have to incorporate a lot of new pieces. Malik Ewan has been a nice addition as a 6'10", 6'11" big man who plays sort of like a 6'6" wing player a lot of the time with his capability and, with his versatility. So time will tell. I think this is a good basketball team. It's just unfortunate that together we have not been able to win, I guess, some of those quote unquote gettable games with the losses that we have, with losses at LSU. We're up 6 at NC State with 3:40 to go and losing overtime. And Louisville, we just saw them beat Carolina last night. And they're a good team that Pat Kelsey has assembled. All those guys are newcomers and first-year players. So I think this Florida State team has improved from what we've seen over the last couple of years. And obviously, finding a way to get back to the NCAA tournament is the goal after missing out each of the last 3 seasons.
You mentioned Jamir Watkins, and a guy he's a fifth-year player, played a couple of seasons at VCU, dealt with an injury, and as you said, in his second year at Florida State, and he's looked like one of the best players in the ACC right now. Can you kind of speak to his skill set and what he brings to the table for this team?
Yeah, just very physical, crafty. You can tell he's worked on his game in mimicking some things that he's seen other guys in the NBA do. We see some NBA-esque types of plays where, when a defender sticks his arm out to come out and guard him on the perimeter or puts his hand close to Jamir, he'll rip through and rip up with the ball and go into a shooting motion and draw that contact and get 3 free throws. And he's done a tremendous job of getting to the free throw line. Right now, as the national stats sit, he has shot the most free throws of any Power 4 player in the country. And so he's doing a lot of his work at the line. He's not afraid of contact. He does a great job in getting into the lane. He's physical. He's a muscular guy where he can draw contact, uses his body. He leads the country in fouls drawn per game at just under 9 fouls drawn per game currently. So, when you think he's having an off night shooting it or scoring from the field, all of a sudden he's at the free throw line 15 to 20 times, in that game. So, he's been a tremendous asset in that regard. He's a good rebounder. He's a good defender on the ball. He's got quick hands. And so, it's obvious his goal is he wants to make it to the NBA as all of these guys do at this level. But after a year ago, he put his name in the draft, went in the portal, got feedback, and certainly great that he decided to return to Florida State for his final year.
As you get ready to call this game, Jeff, I'm sure you've had a chance to watch Syracuse play some, especially with this 2-week layoff. What do you make of this SU squad? A team that's struggling again, below 500, entering the new year without their best player in J.J. Starling. What do you make of this Syracuse team?
Well, look, you start there, and I realize everybody has injuries, and you have to figure out how to get over it. But that's a key loss in J.J. Starling, and I know he's getting close to coming back, and that will be extremely important for the Syracuse team, is to get their best player and leading scorer back. And it's just tough to overcome that, no matter who you are, and especially when you play with him, and like we were talking about earlier, when you're incorporating some new pieces, some transfers, some true freshmen. And you play with him and then you lose him, you almost have to reset. And I think that's where the big, probably frustration has been for Red Autry is 6 starting lineups in 13 games, trying to find the right mix overall. It's tough, And so losing Starling is, anytime a team loses their leading scorer, it is going to put a ton of burden on everybody else. And so, look, I think Donnie Freeman is a tremendous young player. I think he's a guy that when he gets it going, Syracuse is tough to beat. I think in the 5-6 wins Cuse has had, he's at 15, 16 a game and 8-9 rebounds a game. That's pretty impressive for a young player. We saw Eddie Lampkin last year with Colorado on a good Colorado team and saw him in Daytona Beach at the Sunshine Slam early in the season. And he's just one of those unique, he's like a dancing bear, right? I mean, the guy has great feet. He's a tremendous passer, second in assists on this team right now as a big man. And it's tough to defend him physically. When he's able to get his body underneath of him, he can make a lot of plays happen, and he's really a problem in the low post area. So, look, it's a Syracuse team. I think much like every team in the league right now, outside of probably Duke, that's trying to kind of figure themselves out. And a lot of teams are in that category. I think, guys, this is going to be one of the more fascinating conference slates here over the next 60-plus days, because the league has certainly not had great success, but the wins are out there. And if you can go out and figure yourself out and become the best version of yourself, I don't think there's a team in this league, maybe outside of Duke, that anybody can't beat on any given night. And so it's going to be a fascinating ACC conference season this year. No question about it in my mind.
Took someone in Tallahassee to finally have a sensible take on Syracuse. That was so refreshing compared to the calls in the chat.
Well,
it's all doom and gloom.
Hey, guys, trust me, I'm coming off a 2-win football season, so I've got my Dr. Phil hat on securely right now, and so I know how it feels. But it's tough. I mean, look, nobody wants to win more than the coaches and the players, right? And Red Autry being a Syracuse guy, following up a Hall of Famer in Jim Boeheim, there's a lot of pressure there. And so he wants to obviously, get his culture instilled and his style of play instilled to where he wants to see this program go. But, this is a Syracuse team and a program that is not far and is certainly going to have a say in how things go if they're able to get healthy and stay healthy here in conference play.
And your Eddie Lampkin dancing bear, that might stick. That might stick as his nickname. I like that.
The movie Cinderella Man, guys. Cinderella Man with Russell Crowe, Max Bear from Cinderella Man, a dancing bear. There you go, man. There it is.
I like it. I like that a lot. I know there's a ton of basketball still to be played. When you look at both these teams being, winless in conference play, and this being a home game for Florida State, I always hate that term must win, especially this early in the conference slate, Jeff. But, how important is this game for Florida State?
Yeah, it's not that far off, guys. It's not that far off. In fact, I thought the Louisville game before the holiday was in that category, just because I think the margin of error is so slim, unfortunately, for at-large teams in our league this year. I can't believe we're saying that about the ACC, but our teams have not done themselves any justice in non-conference play. And that's unfortunate. So you got to go out and you got to win these games. You got to figure it out. And, I think about a year ago when, we've been up in arms the last couple of years, and I think rightly so for the league, just from a standpoint of teams not getting in. And I looked at Pitt last year, and Pitt a year ago won 22 games and went 12-8 in the ACC and got to the quarterfinals and almost beat Carolina and didn't get in. And so I think that's kind of the benchmark for at-large this year. Even with a down ACC nationally, I think that is where you need to go for an at-large. You got to get into double-digit wins in the league this year. And so from that perspective, to answer your question, yes, it's getting to that point, even in early January, where you got to take care of business at home and you got to win these kinds of games. From a Florida State standpoint, I think you're expected to win this one with Starling out. You better take advantage of the opportunity.
All right, last one for you, Jeff. What does this game ultimately come down to on Saturday?
Well, I think from a Florida State perspective, they got to get off to a great start and can't allow the road team, much like Louisville did 2 weeks ago, to get up early and get into a rhythm and dictate tempo. I just don't feel like this Florida State team against like-minded schools yet has developed a way to not get off to a great start and figure out a way to come back and win. And so I think getting off to a great start is definitely key, without a doubt. I think defensively, if Florida State can play the Leonard Hamilton way and get out and guard the ball and create some problems. FSU leads the ACC in steals per game and blocks per game. If they can get that going and get to some runouts and get the timeouts called early in the game, and maybe a little bit of that here we go again mentality for a team in Syracuse that's a little frustrated right now, I think that's going to be a critical key, especially early on in this matchup on Saturday night.
All right, Jeff. Great stuff. Really appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much. Glad you're getting back to work, and enjoy the rest of the season. Hope it goes well for you guys, and we'll talk again soon.
My wife is as happy as anyone I'm doing an interview right now and not wasting her time. So thanks, guys. Appreciate you as always. Have a good one.
All right. Happy New Year. Jeff Culhane joining us here on the show.
That's not good for Syracuse that he said that at the end. They get 16 points a game off turnovers. Syracuse can't be sloppy with the ball.
Yeah. And getting off to fast starts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's been it's been an issue for this team as well. So, road game and conference, it's all order. But if they're going to get things back on track, it's got to start Saturday for this team. 315-437-7644. We'll wrap up hour number 1 next. Then Adrian Autry joins us at the top of hour number 2. Back after this on ESPN Radio.